Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm back with my good friend Paul, who I've known for a very long time. He's probably the biggest Karate Kid fan I know of outside of myself. And we just got done watching season 5, if you can believe it, of
Crazy.
Cobra Kai. And wow, what a season it's been. It's actually Saturday. We watched it yesterday, just as it was released. And this time we decided to do something a little bit different, maybe gather our thoughts a little bit before leaping into a big review.
True. Last time for season 4, we did it right after in the middle of the night. It was probably 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think when we finished it was after 3 a.m.
And so it wasn't our best, maybe. So we're trying to get back.
It wasn't my best.
Yeah, get back, compose our thoughts a little bit more, and just kind of reflect. We had a day to think about stuff, what we thought of it, and kind of just give our general reaction.
Yeah,
right?
so this will be another unscripted review, hopefully a little bit more organized, but for the most part, we're going to be bouncing all over the place, and there will be spoilers, but first, let's just talk about the season in general. No spoilers, kind of what's going on with the season.
If it's a reminder, where we picked up from last time.
Yeah.
So if we remember, end of season 4, Kreese was kind of in jail. Silver, he was in jail.
He was arrested.
Silver was kind of in charge of the Cobra Kai empire. We had Miguel had run off to try to find his dad. And as if you remember, Cobra Kai won the All Valley tournament, which in turn meant that the losing dojos, Miyagi-Do / Eagle Fang would be closed.
Yeah, they would resign. And I believe also at the tail end of that, Johnny told Carmen that he was going to go after Miguel because he kind of ran off on his own.
Correct.
So we've got kind of everyone doing their own thing.
And we also have Chosen and Daniel, who you see Chosen as the closing scene of season 4, kind of them teaming up, knowing that Silver is back and they need to kind of work together to resolve any conflicts. So it pretty much picks up almost instantaneously after that. I mean,
it feels like the next day almost.
Yeah, it was like it's the summer, so it's probably end of school, picks up right where it left off.
Yeah, which is nice. And they didn't even. Did you notice that the first episode they didn't even give us a recap?
No, they didn't. Recap,
yeah,
I know. So there you go.
So there you go.
Hopefully, if
you need to watch, if you haven't watched season 5 yet, and you want to go back, it might be worth watching the last episode of season 4.
Yeah, for sure.
So before we get into spoilers, we're just going to talk generally, non-spoilery,
Spoilery.
That's a tough one. We're going to talk with no spoilers, just in general about like the arc of the season, kind of what's going on with it, kind of a real general summary.
Yeah.
Nothing that you have, if you've watched any of the trailers, you probably get a sense of that already.
And then we'll talk about some general overall thoughts without spoiling anything, kind of what we thought of the season in general. And then we'll get into spoilers and kind of things we liked, kind of in order as they happen. So, I guess generally, if you were saying what the overall season arc is, it is, I think as we were talking before, a kind of, primary overarching story A season. The main thing is really Silver, he's in charge, Kreese is in jail, and the whole arc of the season is Silver trying to expand his Cobra Kai empire.
And get global with it, which is real fascinating to me because we don't really get that with the other seasons. There's always been an A plot and a subplot, like a B plot, kind of like with any other series you get that, where there's an overarching A story and there's smaller stories as subplots.
Sure. I mean, there's a couple of little things here and there, but overall it is really just what is Terry Silver and Cobra Kai doing, and what are the other characters doing to, how they are either affected by that, or what are they doing to try to stop that. So it is, I think in a good way can be, very all focused on that primary thing. The only kind of side character really is John Kreese, who was arrested at the end of last season, and we see him sporadically throughout the season, kind of in jail, interacting with people and kind of seeing if he can get out of jail and, what he can do. So, Kreese is definitely a secondary character in this season after being a primary character in a lot of the seasons 2 and 3 and 4, I guess. But,
and like classic Kreese, the wheels are always turning with that guy.
Wheels are always turning. Yep, you
never know what he's thinking.
Yep, he's always trying to manipulate and do something. So, I mean, that's pretty general, but I mean, that really is the, kind of arc of this season.
It's a fairly simple plot,
simple, a lot of intricacies, but generally very simple. So, Jim, what was something that came to mind when you were just thinking about season 5 overall?
Well, it's funny because we were sitting next to each other watching it, and I remember right after the last episode kind of turning to you and just saying, that was really freaking intense.
Really intense,
and that's, if I could describe this entire season, it'd just be intense.
Yeah.
Because I can count, and when I think about it, season 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them had at least one episode where it was, I wouldn't say it like a one-off-ish, but it was very much kind of a way as an audience to just have some relief
just
from all the
hanging
drama.
out. The kids were at the beach, they were at the roller rink, they were being teenagers, developing romantic relationships, whatever.
I remember like season 1, episode 9, Johnny and Daniel are just kind of mending, you think they're going to be friends. So, and there's a lot of comedy. It's just a good way for the audience to just have some relief from all the tension, all the drama.
Yeah, funny moments. They're eating dinner together, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a way to catch your breath. And you don't really get that at all in this season. And I remember just every scene being so intense, especially with Terry Silver's character.
Yeah.
There's no relief. And so if I was going to describe it, my knee-jerk reaction is just intense.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like we've had 4 seasons of developing these characters. And so not that there's no character development, but like we kind of know who these people are. We know the relationships. We've seen them develop and grow. And so it's very plot heavy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But a lot of the times, character development is great, but sometimes you're like, okay, let's, see these things that we want to see. And so, yeah, definitely I think it was like kind of the stages has been set over 40 episodes or so, and let's just really focus on that overarching plot.
And let's be fair, they've brought in just about every character they possibly can. There's so many, in fact, we had to write down names because we kept forgetting, who is that again? How do you pronounce that? There's so many characters, so it's nice now that with all of these characters, a lot of the relationships, a lot of the characters have been established.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of rehashing of the same relationship woes.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Another thought I had, just we're talking about, and my thing's on mind, just Terry Silver. Thomas Ian Griffith is amazing. He's such a great actor.
Well, you said to me at one point, if you close your eyes, he sounds like he did 30-some years ago.
For sure. He's such a great...
He hasn't aged other than a white hair.
For sure. He's aged... all the characters have aged really well. And all characters sound like they did to a reasonable extent in the original trilogy versus now. But I feel like Thomas Ian Griffith, you could be overdubbing exactly his Karate Kid 3 lines to now. And so that's really cool. He's such a great character. He's such a great actor. Every scene he's in, he just commands the scene. You can't take your eyes off of him. He's just
You can feel that intensity in his eyes, everything.
His mannerisms. Yeah. He always seems so... what he's saying is great. Steals the show.
Just like he did last season.
Yeah, for sure. And he's always playing the long game and going and just kind of thinking...
the master manipulator.
For sure. And I really loved last season and the kind of, which we talked about in our last review, kind of the last season, it was first couple episodes, he was kind of like normal, nice guy. And then he was like...
He was reformed. He was kind of getting back on track with his life. Things had kind of turned around. He had stepped away from Cobra Kai and gotten away from Kreese. Yeah. And the fight, I know I mentioned this in our last review, and I mentioned it to you a couple times, but I like the kind of the poetry because in Karate Kid Part 3, the film, Kreese is where Terry Silver is at the beginning of season 4. He's humbled. His life is a shambles, and he is ready to kind of throw it all in and go down the road,
for sure.
On a different path. So Silver brings him back to his old self, kind of re-corrupts him into being the Kreese we all know. Whereas with season 4,
this season he's just full. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and then in season 4, Kreese, it's a role reversal. Kreese shows up at Silver's place and gets him back into being his evil, conniving.
Yeah, for sure. And then in season 5, Silver is just full on Karate Kid 3, the evil mastermind puppet master the entire time. For sure, even more. Which again, I loved the arc and the development that Jim just summarized in season 4 as well. But it's also cool to see like full on Silver through an entire 10-episode arc.
And you never know what he's capable of or what he's doing, and this season kind of starts answering that.
Yeah, for sure. Loved that. That was a huge thing.
He's the emperor from
pretty
Star
much,
Wars,
everything. Yeah, and he always seems like he's kind of on another level. For even Kreese, Daniel, Johnny, as far as just his resources, his means, what he's thinking.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit too. I kind of mentioned to you, like it's hard not to put these guys in a tier class. Like if Mr. Miyagi was S tier, God tier, right? And we started talking about if you could give him a score and stuff, and then Silver's here, and then Mike Barnes and Daniel and Johnny, and you start, it's just like kids playing with toys.
Definitely. So love Terry. Another thing that came to mind is just I'm continually amazed, and this isn't just season 5; it's the whole series. But I just
you get more 5,
and as you get more and more, I mean, we're talking 50 episodes. How much they can draw from a relatively limited 3-film arc of the Danielson trilogy. 6-ish hours of material. I mean, they take little lines or little things that happen in those episodes that I barely even remember. That kind of sounds like a throwaway line, and then they'll build a whole multi-episode story arc out of these things. And it's amazing. Like, I mean, it's not like this is like got like Tolkien's work that we're working from or something like that. I mean, it's just 3 movies.
No, that's just, I mean, the biggest analogy would be like it's like taking a 3M Post-it note and turning it into a novel.
Yeah, for sure. And so I think they do a great job. I thought they did a great job every season, but I mean, they continually have to keep pushing themselves as there's less and less stuff and less material that they haven't used over 40, 50 episodes. And I thought they did a great job at that. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into a little bit more when we get into spoilers, but just a lot of great tie-ins and new things that haven't been touched on in the original films. And I mean, again, I think the great thing about this show is that you can be casual to maybe don't even really know much about the original trilogy and still enjoy it, or you can be a little bit more like us, who's
complete fanboy,
who are huge, kind of. I mean, we like the secondary and the new characters, but like kind of mainly in it for the original characters because we love the original trilogy so much.
And then a nice byproduct of that is to actually really enjoy the new characters that they do bring in because the writing is so good.
Yeah, for sure. So I think this continues strong writing. Strong tie-ins from the prior films.
That it still amazes me that we've gotten 5 full seasons out of Cobra Kai. Something that I never, we talk about this. I never would have believed that they would have been able to do something like this.
If you'd have told us in high school that we'd be like watching this 20-some years later, I mean, this would be that would be like our dream.
It's candy. Yeah. It's real candy. And the fact that we got 2 seasons now in under a year.
Yeah, true.
Amazing.
I mean, 9 months or so. I mean, that's a lot of turnover. So they clearly had a vision, so that was good.
Yeah, I like the direction it's going. I think, the training wheels are off. Now everything's established. Now they can take things to a darker level.
For sure. And then my last thought was just, I mean, this season's very adult-centric, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say it's very much aimed at hardcore fans of the original films. There's so much involved with the original cast, the original characters from the films, and the kids for once, and I say for once because in previous seasons I always felt like our OG characters, Daniel LaRusso, Johnny Lawrence, they're there to kind of propel these kids because almost like passing the torch, and which is good. It's great writing, but it's like this season, like you said, it feels adult centric. Like the kids are kind of the subplot.
For sure,
it's our OG characters as the main part of the main plot.
Yeah, definitely,
and it's definitely aimed at like. I think I mentioned it to you. This movie, it feels like a movie. It feels like a movie,
for sure.
A long movie. It feels like this is kind of like Karate Kid 3.5 or a sequel to a direct sequel to Karate Kid Part 3.
It really does, yeah. Because they're really focusing on the events in Karate Kid 3, the characters in Karate Kid 3. We'll get into that a little bit more. And yeah, totally. I felt like
the mythos too.
Yeah, mythos too. Yeah, and I feel like. Particularly the last couple seasons, I mean, they had obviously Kreese, Silver, Johnny, Daniel, but I mean, I felt like they were more facilitating the high school kids' dojos and their romantic involvement and stuff like that. Whereas this is, I feel like, they're the primary characters, and of course there's storylines and subplots of the high school characters as well, but I mean, it's definitely, you're right, really focused on the overarching Silver, Daniel, Johnny, etc., which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to mix it up. We got 5 seasons, we don't only need to focus on high school drama, right. You can do it, so I thought it was a good mix for sure overall.
Absolutely.
We have always been, I mean, again, I will probably say if I was ranking the original trilogy, probably put number 3 as the lowest. But I mean, we really love Karate Kid 3 more than a lot of people.
It's underrated for sure.
For sure. We think it's underrated. I mean, it is a little hokier, not quite as good writing as the other two, but great characters in Silver and Barnes. Really great one-liners. I mean, it's probably the most quotable for sure.
Absolutely.
So, it was really cool to see an extension of that from the 4th season and the 5th, and an extension of that 3rd one, which is great.
Yeah, and they're rounding out everyone.
For sure.
No one really is. Well, we'll get into that with spoilers when we talk.
You want to get into that now? Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think at the end of this we can talk about where we would rank the season.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think now's a good time for spoilers. But we took a bunch of notes.
Yep, got some notes.
And so if we're referring to our phones, that's just why. This way, this isn't too disjointed. Hopefully.
So we're trying to organize how we would go through this. We don't want to go episode by episode, but I was thinking. So we'll get into spoilers now. So we kind of had just thoughts that we wrote down and things that jumped out at us, maybe for the good and the bad, and we kind of tried to organize those somewhat chronologically. So we're not going to go through every episode, but some of the things that jumped out of us.
And like you said, there's so much crammed into this.
For sure.
We keep I kept turning to you. You'd mentioned something like, I totally forgot about it. We just watched it, and I just forgot about it.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of stuff.
There's a lot to unpack, and even though we tried to organize things, apologies in advance. This isn't obviously a scripted thing. We're just coming off the heels of watching it, so we are going to be bouncing back and forth. But if you guys have seen it, because this is going to be spoilers, I hope you can understand that.
Okay. So first thing, we have Miguel in Mexico. We have Johnny and Robbie kind of going to kind of find him and figure out, bring him back to Carmen and the U.S. And so that was kind of, there was him finding his dad and him kind of going through, it's like about 2 episodes when they resolved this, trying to find his dad, kind of put him up on a pedestal, and then essentially realizes that he's not the guy he thought.
Right. He's basically the monster that his mom warned Miguel of. And, you mentioned, it's funny, this is one of those things I totally forgot about, because we were talking about this right before we started recording, and you're like, should we talk about Hector? And I'm like, Hector?
Yeah.
Hector, Miguel's dad. It took me a minute, because it's there and it's over so quickly. When they pitched that up the last season, I thought that this was going to be like Miguel's story throughout, like a little woven story throughout the whole season.
Yes. Yeah. So they're going for it. He finds him. He's not really what he thought. At first he seems not really thought. And then he's like, okay, Mom, I was wrong. And then Johnny finds him. So I didn't love this. It was resolved quicker than I thought. It was a pretty big cliffhanger. It kind of felt like it was really a cliffhanger for season 4, and then for season 5. I mean, they did dedicate 2 episods to it, but
I think it was more of a proponent. I think to mend Miguel and Robbie and Johnny, and first and foremost Johnny and Robbie to kind of keep their relationship mending.
Yeah, so it had some purpose, but overall, for me,
I don't think it really served Miguel.
Yeah, for me, I didn't love it. It was probably a low for me. I mean, it wasn't bad, but I thought they could have maybe, if they were going to go down a couple episodes, they could have maybe resolved it a little more interestingly, like maybe Robbie and Johnny, like, kind of helping him out a little bit more. It was just kind of like, okay, they found him, he left his dad, let's go home. So I could have taken or leaving that.
I didn't think about this till now, and I don't know if this is necessarily any of the reasoning for writing it in there, but it could also be a subtle way of the writers answering one of many fan theories that is Mike Barnes Miguel's dad? Because that's been an ongoing fan theory since season 1. That's been one of the biggest ones.
Spoiler alert. No.
Spoiler alert, no, he is not. So, I mean, there are some minor points, but the fact that this is like 1.5 episodes, it kind of begs the question, what was the real purpose of it? It has its, like, you could argue that it does serve some purposes, but ultimately I don't think it really serves Miguel, like he could have just believed his mom, but maybe he needed to know for himself.
Yeah.
Either way, it's over so quickly that obviously I forgot about it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that wasn't the best, but I mean, I thought it could have been written a little bit better.
Sure. Although I got to say the MMA, the Johnny showing up to the octagon fight that Miguel's at, that was
pretty funny. They had the FBI. And they're like, oh, the feds are here, but it was actually female body inspector shirts that Johnny had bought them. So that was humorous. Classic. A lot of good Johnny humor in this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he is at the heart of it.
So that's kind of the first couple of episodes. Also mixed in there was Chosen as kind of going into a mole as Terry Silver. And first, generally, overall, I would say I loved having Chosen.
He was great.
As a main part, I mean, he was, had a couple episodes in earlier seasons, but he kind of came back and was really like a primary character.
Yeah.
The top 3 or 4 primary characters throughout this entire season. So I thought overall it was just great to see him.
A lot of humor from him.
Development.
I mean, it opens with him swimming nude.
Yeah, there you go.
in Daniel's pool. I thought that was pretty
And I think a lot of this, which is the case of a lot of things, kind of in this day and age that are kind of being retreaded or expanded upon. I mean, I think these things actually can enhance your enjoyment of the original films, like seeing more about Chosen and whatever, and him reflecting on things. I mean, you
get a lot of
rewatching Karate Kid 2 kind of makes it that much more impactful.
Yeah.
So
in fact, we actually get a flashback of Chosen as a little kid and his uncle, Sato, training him very hard.
Yeah. For sure. And so he also was a mole kind of... he was kind of... Part of the plot was he was trying to kind of integrate into Cobra Kai Dojo as some of the outside senseis they were bringing in. But that doesn't last too long. Silver, being the mastermind, finds out within
the same
10
episode.
minutes. Yeah, it's essentially a one episode thing.
Which was... Okay, so I loved seeing him go undercover, play mole. Seeing him interacting with Silver, you're just dying to see these two go head to head again. Yeah. It's like those dream matches we talk about. And so I thought this was, again, just like the Miguel plot with his dad. I thought this was going to be like at least like a few episodes. Yeah. Because they even kind of imply that Silver's really smart. He's going to figure it out eventually. So you think, well, okay, is this going to last like 3 episodes? Where is it going to...
Or maybe even a primary arc of the season, but it's pretty quick.
So I was a little like... I know these both sound like cons. They're kind of nitpicks, but I wanted to see more of that because it was fun to see him in that role. But we did get a good brawl.
Personally, they could have maybe taken that a little bit longer than they did, but still a cool plot point overall.
And classic Silver, he ends up discovering that Chosen's the mole. He's lying to him because of whiskey, of their toast when they cheers.
For sure. So that's another just the sophistication of Terry Silver for sure. So that was interesting. I think we got to get into Mike Barnes. I mean, we're talking about season 3, season 3.5, and kind of after the couple episodes, I think is it episode 3 or 4?
3, yeah.
3. So that was a big thing for us at the beginning of the season. Okay, we knew that Sean Cannon, is it Cannon?
Cannon.
Sean Cannon was going to be in the season. We knew Barnes was going to be in the season. And us, as huge Mike Barnes fans...
A photo was posted, and then Sean Cannon confirmed that he was in this. So that's, I mean, even if we weren't in spoilers.
Yeah, for sure. So... how are they going to use him? Is it going to be like a whole season thing? Is it going to be at the end? What was it be? And he kind of shows up in the 3rd episode.
I thought it was clever how the reason for them going to... So I liked that Daniel and Chosen decide, well, okay, we're trying to figure out how Silver's operating. Like, how can we get a leg up on Terry Silver and use something to our advantage? And they decide, well, the only person left that they know of, or that Daniel knows of, is Mike Barnes. And so I actually didn't expect this, but they kind of stalk him at his house.
Yeah, they just kind of find him somehow. They don't really get into it. They see that he's leaving his house, and then they see that he's follow him to his work, and lo and behold, bad boy Mike Barnes owns a furniture store.
Yeah, yeah. And I like too. He's on the phone and he's like, "I will." He's picking up tools. I'm going to cut those legs off. I'm going to do this. And Daniel, of course, misinterprets it. But I thought that was a clever way of figuring out where Mike Barnes is now, and you get a bunch of backstory. And turns out he was banned from all his life was pretty much went down the shitter right after the events of
so I was curious, like, what are we going to see? Are we going to see crazy extension of the over-the-top Karate Kid 3 Barnes? Are we going to see just a completely reformed, changed all of his ways Mike Barnes? Or are we going to be somewhere in the middle? And essentially it was the very nice, has his life together. He's very apologetic to Daniel. Talks about how his life was ruined. Yeah. So a completely different person other than the fact that the same actor, same person.
It very much reflected to me when Daniel met. Actually, it was actually different now that I think about it than when he met Chosen in Okinawa in season 3. I think
because they had a little bit more of a butting heads first.
Yes, yeah, but here it was a completely reformed Mike Barnes. I did not see that. I thought he'd be a little rough around the edges and maybe take a little, like, he wouldn't be the same person, but he'd maybe be a little, like, when he saw Daniel, he'd be a little more off-put or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, personally, I didn't love the way they introduced him. I mean, different opinions, obviously, but I mean, to me, this was like the last. Yeah. This is essentially, I mean, unless you want to do Hilary Swank, which I don't know, may or may not happen, but in the Daniel LaRusso trilogy, this is really the last main character that they haven't brought in. So I was really anticipating it. I thought it was a little bit like, oh, who can we think of? Oh, Mike Barnes. And the next thing, they're just like seeing him walk of his own house. To me, who was like such a big and important character for us, I would have maybe liked a little cooler reveal or something like that. And
or maybe more of maybe journey's not the right word, but maybe span it out a little bit. Their search for Mike Barnes.
Yeah, search for and whatever. And then nonetheless, and then essentially they talk to him, whatever, and then we don't see him again, which we'll talk about the overall final episode, but until the final episode. So to me, I don't know. I love Mike Barnes. I didn't feel like he was utilized super well this entire season.
Well,
he wasn't in it that much. I feel like they could have woven his story in a little bit more, else made it more of a struggle or something. I don't know.
Okay,
I feel like it's a missed opportunity.
I agree with you there because right after episode 3, it ends with his factory is being burned to the ground, which is obviously Silver doing. And so I'm like, oh, here's a motivating factor for him to help,
work with Chosen and Daniel for the next 7 episodes.
Like, dudes, what the hell? And then then they just like, it's like kind of a throwaway thing, like, oh, Barnes is out of the town.
Or he's running away from his insurance company because his thing burned down. We don't see him till the very end, and it's like,
which by the way, we were doing this throughout the rest of the episode because he's introduced in episode 3, and every episode after that, we were like, you think we're going to see Mike Barnes?
Yeah.
No, we didn't see him. Do you think we're going to see him again? And I kept asking, I'm like, was that it? Is this like the Chosen episode of season 3 where it was one episode and that was it?
I didn't think that was it. I would have been really disappointed that was it. Yeah. But he does come back. But again, overall, I just felt like, we'll get into the final episode when we get there, but I mean, I just felt like it was cool to see him and the character, but it didn't do a whole lot. Like, if he wasn't in the season, essentially would have been almost the plot would have been almost identical.
I feel like he was underutilized.
They didn't really set him up for next season if he's going to be in it or not. So it was like, I don't know, for a huge, villain character, the last main character that has not been in it, to me, I was underwhelmed by it, which is that was the main thing I really wanted for this season. I
agree, but I also slightly have a little bit of a different opinion. I've thought about this a little bit too, and Terry Silver was already kind of a big established villain. Like, we see him a lot in Karate Kid Part 3. He's in almost every other scene. Mike Barnes, even though he's in there a lot, he's not really. He's kind of like a sub villain. He's like a B villain in the he's like the right hand guy of Silver, right? So I feel like he's the most underdeveloped cast member of the OG movies, of the films.
For sure.
And so there's so much potential there to really make him a three-dimensional character.
And that was one of the big people who criticized Karate Kid and that whole writing was just this one-dimensional bully, don't know really anything about him. Why is he Karate's bad boy? Why does he care about this stuff? Yeah, I felt like, they could have done so much, and maybe they will next season, but I mean, they didn't necessarily do him any favors this season. I mean, there was a little bit of reconciliation with Daniel, but we're talking like 3-4 minutes.
Well,
and then there wasn't really much setting him up either.
It could also be, though, that maybe because he wasn't utilized much this season, the writers, because they've done such an outstanding job, I can't discount that they have an overall game plan, and maybe they're going to give him like the Chosen treatment, where we see a little bit of him this season. And then he's like the Chosen of next season, where he's in the entire season as an integral part.
We'll have to see about that.
If there is a season 6,
we'll have to see.
Assuming there is, I thought I had seen an interview with the writers that they had a 6-season plan as an overall, like it'd be at least 6 seasons.
Yeah,
but we'll get to that when we talk about the ending. So that's Mike Barnes. So we got it was more than a cameo, but so we got him for 2 episodes. But speaking of cameos, we get Jessica Andrews, another Karate Kid 3.
So pretty much the last, character other than Barnes that we haven't seen. So that was pretty cool.
Other than her boyfriend, they could have brought in the picture with his haircut.
Maybe that's for season 6. We'll see. But so that was pretty cool. Unexpected. I didn't hear.
I did not see that.
Not
coming.
A massive character, and I don't even think at first she just walked in.
You recognized her.
Amanda LaRusso. They frame her as her cousin, and she just says, "Hey, how's it going?" And I go, "Hey, that's Jessica." And you're like, "It is?" And so it took you a moment.
Took me a moment. Yeah, she looks good.
Yeah, looks good. Great. It was cool to see her again. I mean, they didn't overdo it. She wasn't integral to the entire season, but there was just a nice 1-episode arc. It
was a clever way of bringing her in, and also at the same time kind of explaining how Daniel met Amanda.
Yeah, so essentially they framed her as cousins of Daniel's wife, and that Jessica was the one who introduced Daniel back in the day.
Hooked them up,
Yeah, and she kind of helps.
And it sounds like she married her boyfriend from Karate Kid 3.
Yeah, and also kind of cool that she does kind of serve her purpose as kind of a sounding board for Amanda, which is
Terry Silver's bad news.
Yeah,
believe Daniel.
Hey, I know Daniel might be a little freaking out about this, but I've seen this. I even have flashbacks about this. You should cut him some slack. Terry Silver's a bad dude. So that was really cool.
Yeah, because if she hadn't done that, Amanda might have really been an opposing force, and things with their relationship.
Yeah, they were really going the wrong way. So you're like, is this going to be a episode arc? Are they going to get separated, which they kind of almost were? But then there you go. Jessica brings her back. There's a nice macaroni and cheese.
Oh,
call back to. I love macaroni and cheese.
You know what?
We quote that all the time. So that was great. Great fan service to us. Thank you, writers.
Yeah. So that definitely propelled the story. Yeah, definitely added and contributed to that. Again, Terry Silver, the mastermind manipulator, getting into Daniel's wife's mind and making, pinning her a little bit.
Amazing. That was, really good for sure. Yeah. So that's a lot of good stuff. Another cool plot point that was kind of came out mid-season was the Carmen and Johnny relationship that has been developed over multiple seasons. And then lo and behold, Carmen is pregnant.
You mean those tiger whatever condoms?
Yeah, tiger glove condoms that the pharmacist insured were not bought at an actual pharmacy that he was trying to return them at. That didn't work, apparently. It's just funny. Nice, old school Johnny reference. And so that was kind of a fun, it wasn't a primary arc, but it was kind of sprinkled in for multiple episodes and kind of a cool way to develop their relationship, some funny humor.
And to mature Johnny a bit.
I mean, they show him, kind of baby-proofing his apartment and essentially, not just baby-proofing, but updating his apartment so it didn't look like he's a 22-year-old college student anymore, actual painted artwork, stuff like that. That was cool. I like that. It was funny, too.
And I like the little nugget of him chatting with his ex-wife and her being impressed. Again, so like the development is good. Everyone's maturing a bit, and I did like they did play the ambiguous, like, is she gonna have is the baby actually a thing? Because she's just a couple days late. She doesn't know if she's pregnant.
Yeah, it was a couple seasons of will they, won't they, and we kind of thought when they was going to say if she was pregnant or not, we thought maybe she was going to say no.
Yeah,
but then
because that's so classic TV, okay, I'm gonna support you. I'm gonna have, I'll be there for you. I'm ready to have this baby, and then she's gonna be like, oh, I'm actually not pregnant, but I was happy to see that, yes, she is. And
so I really liked that storyline. I liked the writing.
Their relationship's great.
Humorous. Yeah, it propelled them as a relationship and as individual characters more. So I thought that was great.
What do you think about Kreese this season?
Yeah, so I mean, Kreese was very intermittent. He was definitely a secondary character, but there were some cool moments. I mean, essentially he was just trying to find a way out of jail, essentially, and stop Silver. He's kind of we see some parts where he's trying to use Tori as like a visitor.
Kind of like his own mole.
Yeah, his own mole. Like she continued to visit because they had a bond last season. Yeah. Silver. And also some, I mean, I would say, I don't know what your opinion is in this, but I mean, there's some therapy as they're going through as they're trying to evaluate if she got out of prison or not, but it's mainly Kreese kind of being a manipulator for the most part. We don't see a lot of raw emotion. It's more, and I wasn't sure what they were going to do with Kreese. If they were going to he kind of started turning with I don't know if he turned with Johnny and Daniel, but essentially against Silver. And was he going to keep going and kind of almost join forces like Johnny and Daniel did or not, which was not the case.
So I made a small list that I told you about, of predictions for going into the season. And one of them happened to be about Barnes, but one of them was also about Kreese. And I thought Kreese was going to reach out for help, either Barnes or Johnny and Daniel. I thought more likely he was going to ask Johnny and Daniel for help because now he's in this shitty situation. Silver has abandoned him, and he's kind of on his own. So who does he turn to? And I thought for sure he was going to turn to Johnny and Daniel. Well, he doesn't.
Not really.
But I will say this: I'm amazed at how many times ever since season 2, how many times he's thrown me off, and I found myself falling for his bullshit.
He keeps you guessing. Yeah, he is. He's maybe not quite as much of a master manipulator, master of puppets as Silver, but he's got the charm and he's deceiving, and he always has a plan. He always has some type of plan
that he usually keeps pretty close.
Yeah.
So we all knew, and it was pretty obvious that he was playing the nice guy in prison,
trying to get a good reviews that recommend him early release.
Everyone sees right through it. But I was really, I was pretty amazed at how deep down he's still the same old Kreese.
True.
Ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. And there were some cool scenes. There was some flashback Cobra Kai stuff that kind of of him and Silver. While we're going in jail, of him, kind of how a little bit more backstory on that. So that was
the roots of Cobra Kai, which
cool.
I'm always intrigued about that. Where we only get a little nugget here and there of where does Cobra. We know everything about Miyagi, though, kind of how that for the most part. But we really don't know. Okay, other than they learned it in the military from their sergeant, and then there's the throwaway the line in Karate Kid 3 from their master. Silver mentions his master is Kim Sung-young. So we finally get a little bit of a flashback of them training with him.
Yeah.
And a little bit more backstory of why it's so important to them to teach this style of karate.
Because before we got a lot of backstory on Kreese and Silver's relationship, but not necessarily their relationship as far as the dojo itself. So that was cool. I thought it was I liked, there was a kind of a fight scene between Kreese and some of the other jailmates, and they kind of did a unique way of not having to put 70-plus-year-old Martin Kove in too much of an intense fight scene, where they kind of were treating it as almost like a flashback / hybrid, where young Kreese was actually fighting the new things. That was actually a pretty cool fight scene. I thought a cool way to do it.
Yeah, and I think it was warranted because of his therapy. Because we also get some really cool stuff with, he has these multiple sessions with his therapist. Or
pseudo flashbacks or like reflection while he's therapy.
Yeah, and sure. it's clever editing. But we get one of the things we get when he's talking to his demons, his former ghosts and stuff, is a CG'd, a deep faked, whatever you want to call it, young version of Johnny Lawrence.
That was really
Zabka. Cool. And it was pretty well done.
Yeah, so it was like he's in therapy, and like there's a different person sitting in the chair talking about his younger self, and then they keep rotating the camera, and all of a sudden it's like him talking to a younger Johnny, which was some of his demons, and it was like kind of took you aback, like. He was in his red leather jacket or whatever, and it was pretty well done. I mean, it was like, whoa, what's going on? Because we're used to seeing William Zabka in his current form, and I mean, it was a short thing, but I thought it was really cool writing and a really cool callback, and they executed it well.
His voice sounded like...
Yeah, they probably did some changes, or maybe they're taking some lines of the past or something.
Yeah, or I'm wondering if they're doing something similar that they've done with like Darth Vader, where they use kind of like a computer algorithm, to my understanding, where they take some recorded dialogue and then they feed into a computer and it processes it, but it was pretty well done, and this is a TV series. It's
sure technology, baby.
Technology.
But this is a pretty well performing show for Netflix, so they're willing to put the money behind it, right?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely.
For sure. So another thing that we get as Terry Silver's trying to expand the Cobra Kai empire is he brings in a group of senseis that were kind of connected to his sensei that Terry learned from. And so he flies them in, and one of them is the
granddaughter.
Kim Da-eun is a granddaughter of Terry's...
Kim Sung-young.
Yeah, okay, yes. A lot
Are
of
you
names.
getting all this?
Yeah, so the granddaughter of essentially...
their master.
The sensei who's Terry learned from. So you have him and a bunch of apparently renowned people that she's connected with. Yeah. And they kind of become the right-hand... I mean, she kind of becomes the right-hand person for Terry. It's kind of his number two. And then the other senseis don't have much of a role as far as just kind of enforcers, and they're in a lot of fights in,
they're more elite as they establish when like Chosen and Johnny, which is a really cool fight. Take on one of them.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on mainly? I mean, the sensei that was cool, but mainly Kim Da-eun as the kind of number two female sensei of Cobra Kai.
I liked it because hey, bring in more female characters. I'm all about it.
Yeah, that's good, for sure.
And this is the first time we get to see a real badass adult female taking the helm, and she's intimidating.
Very intimidating.
You don't see her smile, I think.
Like, she's not conniving and manipulating like Silver, but she's like very intense and,
very
shows
serious.
Doesn't show a lot of mercy. And she really pushes the people. So there's a lot of back and forth.
And she's very motivated because she, the whole reason why Silver persuades her is that if they win this, Saikai Taikai, what I'm gonna butcher it. This international tournament, which is part of the overarching premise. She wants to get their style of Cobra Kai. I mean, they say Tang Soo-do, but it's a much more, I believe, brutal. I think Chosen explains it like that's not really
controversial method of martial arts.
But they want to get to she's persuaded because if they participate in this elite tournament and they do well, that's gonna give them recognition across the globe.
Yeah, kind of propel the Cobra Kai brand, not just the Valley. Because Silver's like, oh, hey, I'm not just cared about the Valley, Danny boy. I care about other things, and I want to make Cobra Kai worldwide. So,
and she's very motivated.
For sure. So, good character, and so that's part of that season. And hey, guess what? Just like seasons do, it was the All Valley tournament, and now, hey, look, could we get in another bigger global tournament? There you go.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
That was fine. I mean, they don't show that this season. That could potentially be something for next season.
I know.
But
it's the tournament to get to the tournament
tournament.
Yeah.
It's not the All Valley, but it kind of
it's
is.
Almost an eye roller. I gotta admit.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they wanted to kind of retread a little of the conflicts from the last tournament and resolve them, but yeah, it was a little bit of now we have a tournament and another tournament, and now your two dojos need to compete to see who can get in this bigger tournament.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like we kind of get it. So I mean, maybe it wasn't the best writing or the best plot points of the 5 seasons, but I mean, it wasn't horrible. But it was a little bit of an eye roller.
It was the second Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go, for sure.
But no, going back to your question, I liked her character just for a few reasons. Still, we don't know a lot about her.
Yes.
And so I'm still curious. And I assume if there's another season, hopefully we'll get some answers.
Yeah.
Because we don't know a lot about her other than she's a granddaughter of Kim Sung-young, Kreese and Silver's master. And so I'd like to know a little bit more. Maybe we'll get a flashback or something about her like true motivations other than So she seems a little bit 1 or 2 dimensional now.
Yeah.
But
just business.
Yeah. But again, you have to delegate across all these characters, and that's difficult.
For sure,
to do.
not easy. Yeah. So we talked about that interaction. So I mean, as far as like relationships, then soon we'll kind of move into kind of final episode and thoughts. So I thought that I enjoyed this season. The kind of the resolution of some relationships. So we've had a multi-season arc of Robbie and Miguel, hating each other, taking turns dating Sam, taking turns on each dojos, and it was kind of like, okay, is there anything more we can do?
Right.
I mean, I've already every type of flip flop for everything.
It's kind of like the mistaken identity thing.
Yeah.
You can only do it so much before people are like rolling their eyes and be like, okay, this is kind of exhausted. Like, I know that this is in its own karate world. Like, you can suspend your disbelief. Only so long though, even in a bubble like this. So it was.
But thankfully, they did resolve it. Johnny's idea over multiple seasons didn't work, and then they just had him, fight it out essentially.
Out in broad daylight.
In the broad daylight, in the middle of his apartment buildings, which apparently, even though that him and Carmen only own 2 of those 20 apartments, no one else really seemed to care.
Well, and I love too that the whole motivator for that is Daniel, just kind of like, if we had hashed things out, if our fight had been a little bit longer, maybe we would have our relationship would have mended a lot.
Yeah, like
quicker.
if I could have kicked your ass for more than 3 points, maybe we wouldn't have been like, oh shoot.
And then Johnny just takes it literally like, oh well, let's just do a street fight.
Yeah, that's true. but
I,
it was funny, and although it was a little hokey overall, the setting, like. They did kind of show a flashback of when Robbie and Miguel were like fighting on like the 2nd floor of the apartment complex, which those people don't care about apparently, or maybe they're at work, so that's good.
Yeah.
And Miguel was maybe about to, think about kicking Robbie over this balcony, and he kind of shows him a flashback of when Robbie did that to him.
Yeah,
and it's kind of an aha moment where, okay, like I remember this happened, I don't want to do this, and then. As true males do sometime, 1 minute they're kicking each other's ass, the next minute they're like, all right, you're all right. There you go, we're good. So, I mean, I thought
the dialogue was good.
Yeah, dialogue was good.
That's where they bonded about, like, the feeling, and, and they were both in Cobra Kai, and they both know, like, so yeah, I agree.
I think that was good.
I was really glad to see them hash it out, and then, and Johnny's motivation for them hashing out is kind of like, well, and I'm having a baby.
Yeah, oh,
by the way.
Surprise. So, yeah, that was funny. So I thought that was good. And I think we were about at the breaking point of if they would have kept this feud going on any longer. And I think they kept it long enough and they resolved it. And then for the next 3-4 episodes, like there was nothing else. Yeah. So that was good.
And to piggyback off that, I was so relieved that there was absolutely zero Johnny versus Daniel, zero misinterpretation, miscommunication, because that's been done to death, and I was even surprised last season when they're they at the end of season 3 they're like, okay, we take on Kreese together, we're done with this, we're gonna train our kids together, and then season 4 they have problems and they have to fight
for sure. And there was a moment where Daniel's being a little crazy, and kind of a role reversal where, Daniel's kind of being the hothead, and surprisingly, Johnny was being pretty calm and like, oh, hey, it's not a big deal. And there was a point where, like, you thought, like, and Daniel didn't take kindly to that, and you thought maybe they're going to butt heads and, like, all right, are they going to, like, flip and, like, oh, I hate you, we're not working together again? But thankfully, the writers kept the momentum of that, and Johnny was just like, hey, man, you're not yourself, like, I get it. Yeah. Let's not do this. And that was it. So I thought that was really good. Like,
it was pretty awesome.
They didn't retread it too much. I thought they found a good mix of just balance, when to end things, when to end these storylines. I've been going a long time.
Yeah, they're good about playing that threshold, like playing that line.
Yeah, Johnny and Daniel. Yeah, for sure. And Miguel and Robbie. So we also have a Tori and Sam relationship that has been a multi-season arc.
Yeah, thankfully that gets resolved too.
For sure, and that gets resolved too for the most part. And so that we're kind of getting now into the final episode and kind of what happens, which will kind of, not really recap, but like talk about the main plot points and what we thought of them. So let's maybe start, since we've already talking about relationships, with the Sam and Tori relationships. So Tori, for multiple episodes, has kind of been trying to find her way. She's conflicted. She's been talking with Kreese, maybe trying to get help.
She knows that from season 4, she knows that Silver paid off.
For sure. So she's been conflicted from the very finale of season 4. This whole episode, like, did I really win the All Valley tournament? She feels bad. She doesn't really love Silver because she knew he
wants to get out of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, she wants to get out of it. She's trying to get out of it.
It's actually
for sure.
not until it's revealed that she's communicating with Kreese.
For sure.
The whole reason why she's still there is because Kreese wants her there.
For sure. And it's tough. I feel for Tori. Like, she kind of gets shit on by Kreese once he realizes he can't get out of jail.
She doesn't have any parents.
She's like, screw you. She doesn't have any parents. She tries to do the right thing at the beginning of the last couple episodes.
Sorry to interrupt. Is she taking care of her grandma? I forget who's in...
I think so.
It's either her grandparent or
whatever.
Her mom.
Yeah, either way. But not an easy home life. She tries to confront Sam and do the right thing at the end, end of this second to last episode or beginning of the first episode. I'm not sure.
I think it's
on the last.
It's episode 9 because that's where they
leading into the final episode, and of course, as true teenagers do. Sam doesn't take it well. She's pissed. Why didn't you say this earlier? This affected our family. And so she's trying to do the right thing at every turn, and she gets screwed every turn, for sure. But at least, after a little while in the last episode, Sam has some reflection.
She shows up to her house.
Miguel kind of helps and says, hey, as I've been in Cobra Kai, it's tough. Maybe cut her a break. And she shows up. They talk it out. And essentially... for the last kind of episode, Tori is essentially on the Miyagi-Do side, which has kind of been hinted at throughout the entire season, which I thought was really cool. And again, same thing with Robbie.
I was just going to say, it's reflected with Robbie, where he's trying to like, hey guys, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And in the same way as Johnny and Daniel, Robbie and Miguel, I think it was a good time to resolve this relationship as well. Like,
big time.
It's been going a long time.
It's been going since season 2.
Yeah, for sure. And so that was nice. I think that was a good writing and a good time to resolve it. Again, the writers are kind of knowing how to space things out to make all these episodes, but knowing when to stop. So I thought that was a good thing.
And one of the things that I'm hoping that, assuming there is a season 6, is the reason for wrapping up all these loose ends and resolving these relationships is for the bigger plot, the bigger story,
for sure.
so that people can all be decisively on one side or the other.
Yeah, for sure. Not a lot of ambiguity. And can I just say, like, I'm a huge fan of Peyton List as an actress, I think. I mean, all the actors in this series are amazing.
Here's his phone number. Yeah, if you're watching.
Peyton, if you're watching, I'm here. No, but I think she's a great actress.
All 5 of our viewers.
Yeah, it's true. I think she's a great actress. I mean, she does so much communication with her face, Like, I mean, you can just tell... I mean, when she's pissed, when she's not... Yeah, he's doing the golf and stuff. Daniel face from the first.
I'll insert a clip here.
Yeah, you should. It's kind of a running joke between us when he scores a goal at golf and stuff with Allie with an eye. But anyways, speaking of Tori, I think she does a great job. She always looks so conflicted. Her face just shows her emotions so well, and the couple episodes she was happy, like over the whole series, like last season, you could tell, her relief and whatever. And you can just tell. I mean, you can tell a lot without her having a lot of lines, what she's thinking, how conflicted she is, her family life. And I think she does a great job. It's a great casting. And, she's been in a couple things, but I hope she continues to propel in her career. And I think, it's
a great development from season 2.
Where she kind of matures finally.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, for sure. So we have that resolution. What else do we have? We have the return of
Mr. Barnes, who we didn't know.
It.
Yeah. Speaking of quotable Karate Kid 3 lines.
There you go.
We didn't know when honestly, or if he was going to make a return. And it's revealed that he he basically carjacks their limo.
Yeah, so they were basically, the boys are out partying, celebrating success of, things in the prior season or the prior episode, and they think that they're in this limo and they're normal driver, and then we're like, oh, where are we going? We should be home by now. Lo and behold, who's in the driver's seat?
Yeah, I think they're celebrating the pregnancy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're celebrating the pregnancy. They're finally, that was like the 7 minutes of the season where it's like, let's have fun and not worry about Terry Silver, where the chosen lines up.
And it's always near the end. It's always like right when you think you can kind of let your guard down. But they do that every season.
Every season. It's like, all right, it's going to be happy. Like, oh no, they're driving in a limo and Karate's bad boy Mike Barnes is there.
He thinks that they're responsible for, and to some degree they are, but...
Yeah, so essentially we see manic Mike Barnes back. Essentially, film 3, Karate Kid Part 3, Mike Barnes.
Very distraught Mike Barnes versus a very
angry,
drunk Chosen.
They're all under the influence, which makes this a funny comedy. And Barnes he's pissed. He thinks that they burned down his house. He's like, "Why? My life was fine before you came." But luckily, they pretty quickly... talk it out.
And the scene, what's cool for me is that we get to see exchanges that we've only theorized about hypothetically for a long time.
Yeah, that was
Johnny
crazy.
versus and Barnes. A little bit of fighting, but really it's mostly the dialogue and the exchanges about like, oh, I don't know if you're so bad. And Barnes is like, let's go kick Silver's ass. He's like, okay, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is true. So, I mean, that is crazy. Like, if you would have told us that we have Chosen.
Well, we got, in order, we've got Daniel, and then all 3 of his rivals from the first 3 movies, Johnny Lawrence, Chosen, and Mike Barnes, all standing together, exchanging dialogue.
First about to kick each other's ass.
Yeah.
And then Daniel is the calm one in this case, whereas Johnny was a couple episodes before. He's like, I mean, they're all under the influence, but they're like, hey guys, like, let's not do this. He's on our side. And then the, bright idea that they have, which is kind of Johnny, kind of Barnes.
Mostly Barnes.
Barnes like, all right, screw this. All right, I'm not going to kick your ass. Let's go kick Silver's ass. And,
at his house.
Yeah, at his house. And Daniel's like, no, it's fine. Let's go. And, Chosen's like, let's go. I got to defend honor. I've had a lot of iced teas. And then, Johnny's like, oh, yeah, let's kick some ass. I love this guy. And Barnes is like, let's go. And Daniel's like, okay.
Yeah. They just peel off and abandon Daniel.
For sure.
He's out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
That kind of sets the scene for a lot of cool fights at Silver's house. So they go through some way or another and all end up at Silver's house, which of course, Silver's there with Kim Da-eun, his second
way to remember her name.
Yeah, right-hand woman. And they're going to go, oh, we'll surprise him. We'll surprise him at Terry's house. Oh, wait. I'm Terry Silver, so I have every person who has ever worked for me.
Just like coming out of closets.
50 senseis from the valley, just on demand.
They just come out of nowhere. He's like, and of course,
we're going to surprise them. Oh, I have the entire valley here ready to kick your ass.
It's fucking the Emperor just calling in every stormtrooper.
Yeah, for sure, exactly.
But like, and so it's Barnes and Johnny, which I'm like, this is going to be freaking awesome. And then Barnes just gets cold clocked behind. Like,
I know. He's like, it's like they're teaming up, and then he kicks a couple people, then kind of gets knocked out for the remainder of the fight. Not all of it, but remainder.
Which is a big letdown, because I wanted to see him fight so much.
I know. It's like, we didn't get much. We didn't get much dialogue. We didn't get much fights. It's like, come on, writers. Like, I hope you have a big plan for Barnes in the season 6, if there is one, because it's like, get the guy fight, man.
I wonder how many people are flooding his Twitter.
Their karate's a joke. His isn't. Come on, right?
Yeah, it makes me wonder like how many people are like, "Hey, Sean Cannon, what's the deal? Why weren't you in this more?" Yeah, but but
as far
they
as
have a plan,
yeah.
I'm sure.
So what fights do we like to see? We saw Johnny versus like the entire Sensei empire of Cobra Kai.
Who
was
at one point you thought was going to just be beaten to death.
I mean, he was close. So that was a cool moment. So Johnny fight with kind of Silver, but mainly his minions.
His elite senseis or whatever.
And then we'll talk about this in a moment. But Chosen goes out to fight Silver, so Johnny's kind of on his own.
And before that, we didn't talk about this, but before that, one of my predictions, which was correct, was that Johnny would fight, Daniel would fight Terry Silver and lose, just like Johnny did last season. And that did happen.
Yeah, it's like mid-season they fight. Silver completely kicks his ass, and then it will come full circle. So, yeah, Johnny's fighting everyone, and then it's kind of cool that we thought, honestly, is Johnny going to die or what? I mean, he was on his last leg, and then he sees, like, the ultrasound photo of his kid come out of his pocket, and that kind of basically brings him to, like, he's taken the gummy berry juice, and now he's ready to kick some ass.
Yeah.
And so then he gets out of that, which is cool, I thought. And then we see, one fight we've all been waiting for, Chosen Silver
versus
right?
Silver, which did not was pretty awesome. Their hand-to-hand combat was something that I really want to see because I feel like they're really close on. Before that, I thought they were very close on the same level. Chosen's above Daniel because he's been training this entire. I feel like
he beat Daniel beat him and.
Yeah, but now you mean because he's been training. I mean, they kind of established that
Daniel's out of the game for a while.
Chosen has a little more knowledge.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to see that because I felt like
Daniel's building his auto empire, while Chosen was just like studying martial arts. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. So we got to see that, and Chosen really shows Silver what's up. Like he wins. He hit his leg with like a pressure point or something?
Yeah, it's call back from the prior season, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they do go to, you mentioned maybe they could have had a hand-to-hand, but they do go to weapons pretty quick. The size versus the katana, which was interesting.
Which is pitched earlier on because Chosen's got his size throughout the whole season. He uses them for training purposes. He kids about using the size to take off the serpent's head. There's some jokes. So he's always got these size. And so at some point you got to see him use these.
And he wears a red headband like Raphael the whole time. No,
so then and then the whole katana, the whole sword thing, it was kind of pitched because there's a couple scenes where Silver's got this huge display of different swords, and this is when Chosen's still a mole.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So Silver
bring
goes
that back.
Yeah. So he goes to one of the swords, and Chosen has a size, and they get into it heavy.
I would say this is like by far the most like brutal fight of any person of any of the 5 seasons. I mean, we're talking like weapons and like significant wounds and blood.
Yeah, one dude's finger gets
gets like oozing, gets cut off.
Yeah,
and then,
so it's great.
And he slices Chosen up like many times, and like I was thinking maybe he was gonna die. Like I mean, it wouldn't have been out of the realm possibility. And then Chosen is about to, of course, a little bit of a predictable thing that happens often, but Chosen wins.
Very much like again a throwback to Karate Kid 2. He wins the fight. Silver is disarmed, and he's got the sai to his throat, just like Miyagi had the spear to Chosen's throat. And gets distracted, and what happens? He turns, and and that's ambiguous because you don't know if he's dead.
Yeah, so
Silver slashes his back really deep.
Yeah, so we'd see him laying in like this fountain they were fighting in, and we're not left to know.
He's bleeding out.
Yeah, is he bleeding out and gonna die or whatever? So but it was a great fight overall.
I liked it. I wanted to see a little bit more hand-to-hand combat.
Would be nice.
I was honestly, it's funny because like even though like everything was set up with the size with the sword, I didn't really see it coming because that's the only time since Karate Kid 2 that we've really seen weapons.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe, in that sense, maybe it was a nice change.
And by the way, a great exchange where Chosen says, "I'm not afraid to kill someone," and Silver says, "I'm not afraid to die."
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a cool
So cool.
exchange,
So then we get that. Johnny's defeated someone, and then essentially that kind of sets us up for the other fight we're talking about, which is kind of the...
Well, Barnes re-intervenes, too.
Yeah, you're right. Barnes does wake up, help Johnny at the end, and then he kind of gets energized. That was cool.
Another really funny moment where of dialogue where Barnes comes in, basically takes out the last like 1 or 2 people, and then Johnny's like, "I kicked all their asses."
Yeah,
though.
this is 90% me, just so you know.
And then Barnes is like, "Yeah, you did." And, I mean, like I love their dialogue because they're almost in the same boat. They would have been like besties.
Yeah, for sure. And then we have the final fight, which we've been mentioning, or which has kind of been building up to, which is round 2. Round 1, Danny and Silver. Silver kicked Danny Boy's ass.
So
wasn't even close. And then now, okay, what's going to happen again? I mean, kind of surprisingly, Amanda LaRusso is like, okay, do what you got to do.
We're with you.
They're in the Cobra Kai dojo. They all kind of go to the side and watch this epic fight. And
it's the other way around. Daniel,
Yeah, so what'd you think of that? So Daniel kind of... I liked that... Well, before that, I asked you a question, then I keep going. But I liked that they flashed back to Karate Kid 3. Man can't stand, he can't fight, can't breathe, he can't fight. So
he's basically turning his training on his head.
He's kind of thinking back, actually, what did Quicksilver teach me back in the day? And taking it on him. Yeah, so what did you thought about that?
I like the editing there. I thought that was very clever because he just kind of counters everything that Silver was trying to teach him with his philosophy.
And he's much more confident.
At first, he's more confident. He's got the full support of everyone.
I think that was a big thing.
But he's not mentally...
Because before when he was fighting, it was Silver.
Man was like, you're on your own.
Yeah, things weren't going well. He was like obsessive about Silver, but I think now he was more focused. He had his kids behind him. He had his wife behind him, and
mental clarity.
He kind of was like, harkening back. So for sure.
At first I was surprised. Like I was like, wow, why did he this time beat him? But there were a lot. That's probably the biggest thing. And then the other thing is that I think Silver was he was exhausted from the Chosen fight. He was already a little bit injured, at least with his leg. Not as many wheel kicks this time.
No, true. Yeah, but he was. A little bit of war of attrition, maybe, but could have helped Daniel. But still, Daniel brought his A game.
Yeah, and there were some really cool techniques that we didn't see that Daniel was using. I like when Silver was going for like the sweep stuff, and Daniel was on one leg, and cool stuff.
Yeah, that was cool. And then so full circles of Karate Kid 3, all of the Quicksilver stuff, and then of course full circle back to the first film where he finishes him with the crane. You gonna rely on that crane crap?
I was just gonna say that the thing that Silver thought was the least effective.
Yeah, that was cool. That was great. I mean, because they really didn't fight in the third one at all, and mainly Miyagi, right? Yeah. They didn't fight actually, did they?
Who Miyagi?
Did Daniel and Silver fight at all? Like directly? It was more just Miyagi while he was there.
Yeah. No, Barnes goes after him.
Yeah.
But as I think about it now, just in this moment, I'm liking it more because it kind of proves that Daniel's ascending a little bit more.
Yeah.
Getting closer to the Miyagi, in the Miyagi-Do sense.
Yeah, it's true. And it was kind of a full circle moment for Daniel because, I mean, last couple seasons, Daniel's been a bit of a hothead, a bit disjointed, a bit obsessive about things, So, I mean, he's had some growth and he's, had some faults and where he's putting too much pressure on his kids, he's putting too much pressure on his marriage and Amanda. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was a great thing. I mean, this whole season arc was Silver, Daniel, with other people, but that was the crux and it came to fruition. He does it. He finished him off the crane. So I thought that was an amazing moment.
What about so simultaneously? One thing we neglected to talk about were the kids.
The kids. The kids finally have something to do. The Cobra Kai and the rest of the characters.
That, mind you, is serving the same plot. This isn't a subplot.
Yeah,
this isn't a few. They're fighting each other, but it's all about the whole the underarching plot of Cobra Kai.
They're serving it.
Yeah.
So I would say one of my thoughts is I didn't think most of the other than Tori, Sam, Robbie, and Miguel, the rest of the Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do didn't have much to do. Hawk, Dimitri, etc. But the last couple episodes, yeah, they plan a plan to try to expose Silver and Cobra Kai, try to find security footage of him,
talking about paying off the ref.
Yeah, talking about paying off the ref. Or they try to find him
beating up Stingray. Oh, by the way, what did you think of Stingray?
It was fine. I mean, he's not my favorite character, but I think it was minimal enough, and they kind of were tying it in. They couldn't completely tie it, but they're tying it in for the last. So I thought it was like just enough. Like, I could do without his character overall in the series.
I think was he in 2 or 3 episodes? I think he was in more than 2 episodes.
Yeah, he was in a fair amount, I think. So
I would like more Barnes and Stingray, but
yeah, that's true. So they tried to find that, and then they couldn't find that footage, but they found the footage of essentially Silver admitting to Tori on camera that he paid off the refs, which essentially kind of
disrupts
completes.
Yeah.
Daniel just beats them. They play the stuff. They play this, upload it to the YouTube channel for Cobra Kai, and play it in the dojos. Like,
so all the Cobra Kai students.
Yeah, so all the Cobra Kai students who are there see it and obviously
come to their senses.
Yeah, come to their senses. And like, wow, this guy isn't who we thought. He's paying off refs. Like, does he not believe in us? And so that's kind of, essentially where we end. So we have Daniel defeating Silver, and we have Silver. We see him kind of essentially being brought. He's
arrested.
Brought up by the authorities.
Yeah, one authority is like, well, we've got so much on him. He's not going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, we even see some of the Cobra Kai kids talking to, giving kind of testimonies to the police, kind of confirming that like they're done with Silver as a sensei. They don't.
Silver's arrested. He's in the backseat of a squad car
for sure. So that's him. And then where's our boy John Kreese? Well, at the beginning of the final episode, they show him kind of in a dust up with the other inmates, and actually him getting stabbed multiple times
in the cafeteria.
Yeah. So we kind of start the final episode.
What an intro to it, with potentially the death of Kreese. Like,
yeah. I mean, it kind of leaves you hanging. You see him get stabbed multiple times, and he's kind of lying on the floor with some blood on him, and you're like, well, is that it? I mean, I think both of us were pretty confident in the writers that would kind of be a letdown for like one of the biggest characters over the entire 5 seasons to be like, oh, by the way, at the beginning you just got killed by some randoms.
That's your one-off.
Good luck to you. You know? So luckily,
good shock value.
Yeah, good shock value. I mean, I think we had more confidence in the writers, and that confidence was paid off in that at the very end of the last episode, they're like examining Kreese on the table, seeing the blood, and realizes it's not blood at all. It is, in fact, what?
Jello, which is a payoff to a setup way earlier.
Yeah, they kind of have been back and forth with stealing things from Kreese and the Jello and things like that. So they realize, okay, he's not dead. It was kind of a ruse. He wakes up, makes quick work of the couple of medical technicians, and then they see him essentially exiting the jail because he stole the key card from his therapist as he was.
So he strolls out of prison. As a fugitive.
Throws out of prison as a fugitive. They're kind of playing that I Did It My Way Sinatra song in the background, which is kind of a cool, kind of him looking maniacally. And that's kind of where we see Kreese. That's essentially the end of one of the last images of the final episode of season 5. So that's kind of the recap of the final episode. So where do we? Yeah. So where do we go? I mean, on
paper, Cobra Kai is out of the picture, that so to speak,
or very out of the picture, very down from where they were.
Yeah, they don't have any students because they all are like, wow, this is effed up. I mean, for the most part, that's kind of where
at least the core students. Yeah, I mean,
Kreese is a fugitive. He's gonna be in the shadow. He can't just be the mastermind in the sunlight.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't think Kreese isn't just going to be like promoting Cobra Kai on the airwaves as he's a fugitive. But so it's kind of
there's no obvious teaser
for sure.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we were just kind of scratching our heads about. Like, is this the final season? Could it be? I mean,
I feel like, so for my just quick research, it seems like it's not confirmed that there's a 6th season, but it's probably likely. I think you have mentioned that kind of over the years, they kind of talked about a 6-season arc.
I remember before season 4 came out, the writers, there was an interview with all 3 writers, and they alluded to it being a 6-season
arc. So, and I think, to me, that kind of feels about right. Like, my feeling is, I believe this will be successful enough and they'll be able to bring people back for another season. I believe that's probably the plan. And this feels kind of like, I think, a penultimate season, kind of setting up one final thing. But as I say that, I think they didn't necessarily set up a lot, though. I mean, it feels like a second to the last season, in my opinion. It could be wrong, but they didn't set up a lot. And I feel like the writers did a pretty good job of, knowing, as much as we love this series, as much as we love as much of these characters as we possibly could, it kind of feels right to me. Like, there's only so much of the retread you can do based on the limited material they have without...
You can only milk the cow so much.
Without retreading it, and I think they've known when to stop some of these storylines and relationship issues, like we've said this entire review. And so to me, it kind of feels like they could get one more solid season out of it, and probably what they're going to do. Do you agree with that?
I do, definitely, especially... maybe like on the story front, there's definitely some unresolved questions that I have that doesn't feel satisfying if they ended it here.
Agreed. I think they could have, had they maybe added another like 10 or 15 minutes onto the final episode. This wouldn't have been a bad, series finale, but they kind of almost left it open, like thinking they probably will do another season. But I guess if this was the last season and some random thing happened and Netflix like, we don't want to do it, it wouldn't
kind
be
of a fail-safe.
Yeah, it wouldn't be it would be a fine end, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I don't care what you give me. I'm just happy. I can't believe we're alive to be seen.
Oh yeah, if you'd have told us,
But
back in the day, we'd be watching this.
But going by their formula, aside from the fact that there's no real tee-up at the end of the season, the Mike Barnes, or the lack thereof Mike Barnes, is the one thing that kind of is jabbing me in the side, saying there's going to be a 6th season because they have to bring him back for more screen time and develop him more than the little nuggets that we got.
So kind of like Chosen, a 1 to 2 episode arc in one season, and now it's like a very primary character in this season. They could totally do that with Barnes for sure, and I hope they do, because we're all big fans of Cry to Get Through and Mike Barnes and Sean Cannon as an actor, and I felt like he does deserve more, and I wish he would have had more in this season, but I guess if they pay that off a little bit more in season 6, it won't maybe seem quite as bad.
I'm very optimistic that they will, because they've done nothing but impress me.
For sure.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't do what they're doing.
So, I mean, as far as what are your predictions for next season? I mean, this is, assuming there is a season 6.
Yeah, where are we left with?
Yeah, this is by far the most
up in the
air. Tying up of loose ends and not really giving a clear direction for what season 6 could be.
Yeah, in fact, we talked a lot about resolved relationships, right?
Yeah.
What relationships aren't resolved?
Not really.
What is
Cobra Kai is kind of defeated for the most part, at least. Johnny and Daniel are good.
Robbie and Miguel
are
good. Sam.
Everyone's pretty good. Maybe Kreese is just a fugitive and that's his swan song, and Silver's in jail. Like, I don't know.
The only thing I can think of is say it for me, Sakai Taiki.
Sakai Takai tournament.
The big international tournament that they alluded to. Both are still invited to that tournament.
Yes.
And so
that's really the only thing that they would have to do, quote unquote.
Right. And the only I'm like, who's the big bad? That's my number one question always.
Yeah, who's the antagonist?
And the only one left that isn't in prison or a fugitive that is
Kim
Daeun.
Yeah. So the granddaughter of
Kim Sung-young.
Yeah, of Terry's sensei. So she could, in theory, step in. I mean, I guess the main group of Cobra Kai students seem disillusioned, but there could be some stragglers, or maybe she's trying to rebrand or something like that.
Yeah, and we don't know a lot about her either.
Yeah, that's true.
So I could see that. I could see that being the motivator. Well, if she's taking, whatever she calls it, whether it's Cobra Kai, and she has a group of students and they go, I could see our posse of, Johnny, Daniel, Chosen, maybe Barnes, participating to prevent that. Because they're still invited. That's the only thing.
That's true.
And that's this big, huge international elite tournament. If it's going to be something that big, why not put that as the final season?
True. Or maybe, even though it wasn't set up too much, maybe this is, kind of further cementing the legacy of Miyagi-Do, even though that wasn't necessarily the motivation for why they want to compete in the tournament in season 5. But that could be a slight pivot to, hey, now I'm honoring the legacy of Mr. Miyagi. Now we have corporate sponsorship, and I can set it. It's not just like in his backyard, which is amazing, by the way. So that could be a route that they went. But I will say, if they do a season 6, the writers really have much more of a clean slate. I'm assuming they wanted that. So the only real things that they would quote unquote have to do is somehow resolve what Kim Dae-un is or is not doing, and then this tournament would be in play one way or the other. But everything else, it's pretty much an open canvas. My guess would be you'd probably still see Silver and or Kreese in some capacity, even if it's small, or maybe they come back at the end. But would you be shocked if that was like it for Kreese and Silver? I wouldn't be, and it wouldn't be a bad. It was a great 2-season arc for Silver. It was a really fitting demise with Daniel defeating him and losing that, and Kreese. I don't know. I wouldn't think it's a bad writing or anything.
I would be disappointed just because anything I've just
we always want more Silver and more Kreese
because it's so fantastic. So I would be disappointed there. But as far as the fact that we got 5 seasons already, I'm just amazed.
Yeah, agreed. So, and if this was the final series finale, or ends up being, because Netflix is like, oh, we're cutting budget, we're not going to do it, it would not be a disappointment. I would maybe have,
done things
added a little bit more at the end as kind of
padding,
everyone hug each other and say how amazing this is.
Kumbaya.
Show Mr. Miyagi, like a clip of him to end it or something like that. But overall, the story would still be a very solid season, a very solid series.
I have very much a hard time believing that Netflix would be like, we're done. Because it's a huge draw.
And it's only the day after it premiered, but I saw that it was a #1 show on Netflix. Not surprising. So I agree. It's a popular show of theirs. It's not Stranger Things as far as a production budget goes. So I would think that they'd want to.
No, the CGI Johnny was pretty impressive.
It was pretty impressive. But not quite Vecna, but yeah.
But amazing. And on that note, where I know this is a tough question. Where would you rank this? We've had 5 seasons. Where would you put season 5?
Yeah, and it's tough because even the 5th out of 5 Cobra Kai seasons is not saying that it's bad. It's just it's
and each season is so different. Like we were saying, this one's so intense, adult centric, focused heavily on the OG cast.
Yeah, I agree. So it's tough. It's tough not to put one
at the top
because it was
so fresh,
such a great take of role reversals for Johnny and Daniel's relationship.
And ultimately, they're the crux of all these seasons because ultimately they're the ones that are working together. Their relationship. We talked about the balance of this time around Johnny talking Daniel down and being the cooler head. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with that. It's very tough. It's like any other trilogy. It's hard to put.
Can you put anything over Back to the Future 1 because it spawned all the other things like that.
Very difficult.
Almost every trilogy, honestly, this isn't a trilogy, but any series, whether it's seasons or almost always one is my favorite. So I would put that in there as well. But it's tough. These are all really good.
My answer keeps changing too the more I think about it.
It'd be great to rewatch them all again so we're fresh because season 2 and 3 are
Let's do it right now.
Not as fresh.
See you guys. We're going to watch
see in a moment.
Yeah.
Push play. No, push pause. But no, so I'd probably go 1. Number 2, I'd probably go 4 just because I thought it was great with Kreese and Silver and all the new characters that weren't in some of the early ones, Tori, etc. I think would put season 2 as my 5th. And so basically 3 and 4 are really hand in hand. I mean, 3 and 5 are really hand in hand. I might put 5 third just because if we're splitting hairs and one has Terry Silver and one has Terry Silver and Mike Barnes and one doesn't, I might go benefit of the doubt to that season. But both really good. So I would probably go season 1, 4, 5, 3, 2. What about you?
That's actually what I was going to say, and I keep going back and forth with a couple.
Subject to change.
It's easily 1 is my favorite for the reasons we just discussed. 2 is my least favorite, and again, like the difference between here's 1, here's 2. No, it's not like it. The quality is so high.
Yeah.
It's for very small nitpicky reasons, and I won't even get into that because this is really long already. So I would do 1. I would do 4. I thought 4 was really
amazing,
like really good. And then I would do 5 with 3 just barely behind
like
it.
3A, 3B.
It's really difficult. It's such a loaded question, and I'm sure there are people screaming at us right now, being like, "No way!
Yeah, exactly.
That 2 is the best, and what's wrong with you?" And
keep in mind, we are coming from a perspective of one of the bigger Karate Kid 3 fans of a lot of hardcore Karate Kid fans who don't really like 3. So I mean, that definitely influences us for sure.
Definitely, yeah. So,
but I mean, great, amazing season overall.
I need to watch it again. I'll probably be watching it with my girlfriend because she's into this stuff too. I need to watch it at least. Yeah, I need to watch it. I need to watch it at least once more. Most seasons I watch at least twice.
Yeah, for sure. So we've had one day to reflect, but it could change. But I thought a really good season. If you like Cobra Kai, you're going to love this season. There's a couple things that I maybe would have done a little bit differently. Some of the plot points would have liked to see some more Barnes. But overall, great writing, great intensity, amazing.
It's amazing that we're even talking like this.
For sure.
I can't wait to see what season 6. Assuming
fingers crossed.
There's got to be a season.
There's got to be.
Yeah,
I'd feel pretty good about putting some money on it. But I mean, let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, I would love to. What are your rankings for the 5 seasons and favorite moments? I mean, this is a spoiler-filled review, so I don't care if you spoil.
Let us know what stuff you agreed with that we said or disagreed. Have different points of view.
Maybe we're just full of shit. I don't know. Yeah, but
maybe. Hopefully not. So.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening to us ramble. If you're still paying attention, I'm sorry, but we'll see you guys hopefully for season 6.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Asa! Asa! Asa!